What's all this Bud Light stuff about? Hey, babe, give me a beer.
Here you go, honey.
Thank you. Hey, babe, one more beer, right? Hey, one more Bud Light, please? Hey, babe, one more Bud Light, okay?
Sure thing.
Thank you.
Budlight again.
Yeah, they got a great products and their cans are unmatched in the industry.
You're not you when you drink Budlight.
What's this? Oh, that's better.
What is going on, everybody? Wired here. I hope you guys are having an excellent day. And as I'm sure you already know, if you're tuning into my channel, if you're subscribed, and if you're not, please hit that subscribe button. I've pretty much beaten this Bud Light topic to death. I'm covering it every single day. I think this is very important. It's the most successful conservative, moderate boycott that's come about possibly ever. And I think this is a very pressing issue concerning not only our society, but our children. But the person at the head of this, or in the center of it, I guess, the person who caused all the controversy, Dylan Mulvaney, has recently came out with an article saying that they are having trouble sleeping since the Bud Light backlash erupted, and wonders what the psychological effects of being called a man thousands of times a day will be. Now, I can't really speculate to that kind of nonsense because I've been called a man pretty much my entire life, and I don't think I've suffered any psychological effects from it, but for old Dilly here, this is obviously a problem, and they're saying they can't sleep on their multi-millions of dollars for trying to push this trans narrative onto our children, and also, in the same vein, trying to erase women. Well, let's get into the article here, because I find this absolutely fascinating, and I don't have a whole lot of sympathy for this person, but here we go. Trans influencer Dylan Mulvaney has said she has been having trouble sleeping since a backlash erupted over a partnership with Bud Light and questioned what psychological effects being called a man thousands of times a day will have. Her comment came during an episode of the Dear Schuler podcast hosted by the trans athlete Schuler Baylor, which was released on Monday. Mulvaney suggested as the trans debate in the US has escalated, the transphobia has become increasingly blatant, resulting in an inhospitable Wild West for trans people. I'm going to say that's categorically false, not true. People always say that trans people are always constantly under attack, but voicing an opinion or a narrative that you don't agree with this type of ideology because you don't want it to be forced upon your family, upon your children, is not an attack in itself. You know, in the Wild West, they had shootouts. I don't see anybody, you know, going and doing anything like that towards trans people, nor should they. I think everybody does have the right to, you know, live their lives and be their best selves. And if you want to transition, although I have personal opinions on that may not align with probably what some people want to do, if they're over the legal age of 18 and, you know, a consenting adult to the procedure, and they think it's going to make them happier, even though I might not think it will, hey, live your best life, live your truth. You know what I mean? I have no problem with that. The problem is when they force it down everybody's gullet, like we've been seeing with Bud Light, Maybelline, Nike, and various other companies. I mean, Hollywood is pushing this stuff now. You know, and it's definitely, it's flooding into the school system, and now teachers are being, or some teachers, I don't want to say all teachers, I'm sorry, but some teachers, you know, I mean, look at who lives at TikTok. Teachers are basically, you know, wanting to hide this stuff from the parents so they can have a project child, but the child is not really their child, and they have no business trying to mentor that child any more than teaching the curriculum that they're supposed to. But anyway, on April 1, Mulvaney became embroiled in a controversy that would make national headlines for weeks after she shared on Instagram a promotional Bud Light can with her face printed on it, as we all know. While Mulvaney admitted she had sleeping difficulties, she also said the barrage of hate that ensued after the partnership has taught her not to waste time trying to please everyone. Quote, I remember even in college just a few years ago, if one person potentially didn't like me, it would keep me up at night, and now there are hundreds of thousands of people that do not like me. I still sometimes can't sleep, but it in a weird way it has been a blessing to break that people-pleasing mentality because there's no way that I can win those people over. And I would just say on that sentiment, I actually absolutely agree with that sentiment. But when you're in a creative space, when you're in any space really, you're not going to be able to please everybody 100% of the time. Some people are always going to dislike what you do, what you say, and there's going to be nothing to win those people over. So I agree with that sentiment anyway. You can't go around your whole life trying to please everybody. That's insane, and you'll die trying, essentially. I still sometimes can't sleep, but in a weird way, blah, 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 I just read that, sorry. If you go back to some of my earlier videos, I was pleading with these people. I was like, what can I say to show them a different part of myself? What can I do? Baylor, who was hosting the podcast, who was the first transgender athlete to compete as a swimmer on the NCAA division and men's team, he shared his own experience in dealing with criticism and commented on how Mulvaney had appeared in the news, which is honestly very interesting. I don't know when this person, Baylor, transitioned, but I have never heard anything about this person. But I think that's also because they transitioned, but they still competed in the same gender league, which is probably what you should be doing. And that's what I think you should be doing, unless you're going to make a whole different league for transgender people, which, like I said, I've expressed very adamantly in the past I have no problem with. I actually think that's probably what should be done for trans people. But I'm going to pop over to Twitter here. I want to play this clip really quick so you can see the podcast. And yeah, take a look.
Pleaser? Oh, for sure.
Okay.
I'm a recovering people pleaser.
Okay.
Oh, hold on. Is it muted? Or is it just
watching
very low volume?
Skylar came in and immediately was like, okay, well, we kind of need to do a different setup of the living room, like pushing furniture around, but was so apologetic about it. And I was like,
you're exposing me.
No, like, I was like, no, like, do whatever you need to do. And yet you did have that air of like, okay, like, you know, is everything okay? Is everything okay? That's me times 100. And I mean, I remember like even in college, this was just a few years ago, like if one person potentially didn't like me, it would keep me up at night. Like truly, I was like, oh God, how do I fix this? And
again, that's a completely asinine and stupid point of view. No offense to Mulvaney here, at least on this point. But yeah, not everyone's going to like you, especially in a creative space. There's always going to be people who hate what you do. There's always people who dislike you. You can't do anything about that. However, I feel like with Mulvaney's situation, it's a little bit different because you've inserted yourself into a culture war. And no offense to you, make your bag. You're worth multi-million dollars right now. Literally for just cosplaying as a woman. And you know, you made bank over it. People have given you money for it. And no shame on you besides the part where you're trying to push this on the children. That's the issue I have. That's where I draw the line.
now there are hundreds of thousands of people that do not like me. And I still sometimes can't sleep. But it, in a weird way, has been a blessing to sort of break that people-pleasing mentality. Pleaser?
Oh, for sure.
Okay.
I'm a recovering people pleaser.
Okay, for anyone that's watching or listening, Skylar came in and immediately was like, okay, well, we kind of need to do a different setup of the living room. Like,
all right. Yeah, so seeing that, heard that, all that stuff. And listen, Dylan Mulvaney is having a lot of trouble sleeping right now. They're very distressed, all the hate they're getting online. And honestly, I gotta say, from a non-objective standpoint, I honestly couldn't care less. You know, this person will do anything for the grift. I don't even really believe that they are an actual trans person because they haven't actually had any gender reassigning surgery. And I don't really believe they're down for the cause until that actually happens. I believe Mulvaney is a grifter. I think this is all a stunt. And I think in 5 years, people are going to really see through this. And it's going to become very apparent, or at least I hope. But people probably wouldn't have a problem with it if you weren't trying to push this stuff on our kids, or it wasn't inserted into everything we do and everything we say now. You know, you can live in your truth. There's nothing wrong with living in your truth, but there is a problem when you want everybody else to affirm your truth if it's not their truth. You know, you cannot expect the entire world to capitulate to you. That's not how anything works. And to think that you can is completely asinine. I think it's absolutely insane. But anyway, that's all I got for right now. Please leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't. This video probably will not get very many views because YouTube is shadow banning people who mention Dylan Mulvaney. And I've actually seen the fallout of this in recent weeks where my videos just don't get traction if I mention Dylan. But I'm going to keep speaking on this regardless because, as I've stated in the past, this is a very important issue. And I have a daughter, and she, you know, I do not agree with the erasure of women as I think it is happening in our society. But anyway, that's all I got. Thank you for listening this long, and I will talk to you on the next one. Later.